No stamp duty. No stamp duty on a property that you purchase under $1.5 million new, and any first home buyers don't pay any stamp duty.
Generally speaking, the stock market is now 15%.
Real estate's the backbone of the economy. It's certainly the backbone of the economy in the Western world. And so real estate in Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, predominantly, needs a full overhaul. And I say that from an overhaul in relation to federal, state and local municipality taxes. There's a lot of talk now about the need and the undersupply for real estate, and yet at the same time everyone looking at each other, where's these new properties, how are they going to be built, when are they going to be built, who's going to build them? And at the same time, simultaneously or concurrently, you've got 2,800 building companies that have gone broke in the calendar year, not financial year, calendar year up until the 31st of December 2024. So builders are falling down like dominoes, prices are through the roof for materials, and that's come off. But at the same time, you've got this compression of building materials, builders that have gone under, and that's a financial, economical or mismanagement on behalf of these builders. And at the same time, you've got local taxes, state taxes, being a real imposition for construction. So you've got the government's a hindrance to construction, builders that are now falling out like dominoes, and material costs. And so material costs aren't the real reason, because they are coming off. Material costs, steel costs and concrete costs are certainly coming off, but it doesn't help where you've got these headwinds that are relentless in those three areas. Look, red tape, I think I said last year in an interview that going back about 15 years ago, I did a subdivision in Austin, Texas, and it was one of my biggest subdivisions, and it was a 2,500 acre site, and that subdivision ended up being a $400 million subdivision, and that took me to get permits through just under 6 months. And America's a can-do place, so it's a different environment. That same sort of subdivision here in Australia, and I'll talk Eastern Seaboard, and if we talk Victoria, would take you now, that size, just under 5 years. So they're the problems you've got. The real issue is not just so much and having said that, the design guidelines and the restrictions are the reasons why we have such good planning decisions. So there's a lot of good in the planning decision, otherwise we'd have buildings constructed like you see in Bali 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I think the restrictions are a good thing. It's just the governments are running out of ideas on how do we create this revenue. And so where does the revenue come from? Let's tax the backbone of the economy. Let's tax the biggest war chest, that's property. And then the next one, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be super. And there's just under 3 trillion reasons why it'll be super. And that then, when you've got property, you buy a block of land for $10 million as a developer, you've got about a 14% cost on that at 1.4 million before you even turn a shovel. So all of the imposts, all the taxes. So they've been very inventive on all of the different layers of taxes. And there's about 8 or 9 now in Victoria of taxes they've just added in. You know, the COVID tax, the metropolitan planning levy, the development levy, the fire cladding levy. There's been 5, and also the service fire levy. There's been 5 that have been added since COVID that add about another 2.7% to the construction. Now, and that's ongoing. So I think that it's not just the policies. It's just that I think I'm a very big believer that you've got to have structure and you've got to have policing in the design. I think that's critical. But it's because they're running out of this, they're attacking the low-hanging fruit, and the biggest war chest, real estate, and super is going to come. It's a very good, interesting topic. I mean, you know, I didn't really realise until last year I started doing a lot of these interviews about disposable income. When I first started, it was just logic that I initially rented in East Melbourne and just geared into real estate in a big way because otherwise that was a way of tax minimisation. It's interesting now that, you know, the question, if you put this, the answer to this is that what would you rather have if someone out there is on a wage of, say, let's call it $120,000 a year, is would they rather have a $1 million, $1.5 million home with 400 grand mortgage, or case study B, would you rather have someone on 120 grand with no mortgage, and then what do they do with that disposable income? Or would you rather, case study B, C would be having someone on $120,000 renting for $35,000, $40,000 a year and putting that disposable income into the discipline of buying 3 properties per year and having the cash opposed to having the burden or the chains or being in concrete shoes. So I look at that today and I think that the insanity is of going in there, this home ownership. Well, you know, that non-deductible debt, 400, 500, 600, 800, $1 million, that's the most insane thing in my mind. So I think it's a real check up from the neck up that people need to really think that differently now and turn it upside down and work out how much. There'd be a lot. I'll say this, I'm no psychiatrist, but I would say this, that you could remove 80% of the stress of families out there if they woke up and decided that on next Monday they're going to go and rent somewhere for 40 grand and that disposable income is going to go and buy real estate, with the view that that retirement nest egg will probably be 20 times the size with that strategy. Now what's that worth? And rent where you want to be. There's nothing to be ashamed of renting a property. Look, right now, I mean, I don't think, and I've done a lot of residential development, I'm not having a whinge or a cry about it, but I don't think I'll do any residential construction unless someone gave me the site and threw the land in and I finance the balance. But I can't see myself doing any sense in doing any, and I'm not talking about a high rise of 30, 40 stories. I don't know whether there'll be much more of that being built, but I don't think I'm 57, I don't think I'll do any more residential development in Victoria, period. And I've done a lot, you know, I've done over $1 billion of development in 35 years. I don't think I'll do any more in this state. I just don't think it's viable. I just don't think it can be done. It can't be done profitably. And I think it's the same. Sydney's not far behind. Queensland's going through gyrations now. I spoke to someone, a very large distribution chain on last week. They're telling me now that real estate up there, particular apartments, if they're well located, if you bought one off the plan 2 years ago for $1.5 million, you could resell it now for 2.7. Well, those stories are unheard of in Melbourne. And that's happening right through the Gold Coast and those areas. How long it lasts for? Incredible. You know, it is becoming challenging, and I just don't think, unless you bring back, I mean, some of the initiatives that I think that should be put in place is to turn it around. If I had the luxury or the fortune to come into power or be in with the Liberal Party and be a part of the change, and the think tank it would be, you know, to bring back no stamp duty on a property that you purchase under $1.5 million new, and any first home buyers don't pay any stamp duty. That's the first thing. And then the government should be really creating a debt facility like a bank to be able to provide, like they've done with HECS. They've done with HECS, and that should be applied also, the initiative with government on lending money out at, call it 1.5% below what they can get at the bank on 30-year interest rates. And that's something that would, and that would help. That would help immensely, and the qualification might be that you only need to find 10%. Government comes to bank, eradicates stamp duty, and that's a great start, and that would help, and then incentivise developers to probably come back and say, well, there is a shortage, there is a demand, we will build it. Governments can't build, but they can certainly come up with changes of policy.